Yo, welcome back, guys. Am I recording? Yes, I am recording. Right, I got a comment for you guys. There's a few little things that Susan's asking here. Let's bring it up and just read out some things. So the first thing she's covering is, can you tell when someone else is not squeezing their vocal cords correctly? What kind of sound does that produce from one extreme to another? When someone squeezes too much or too little, what effect does it have on singing? And yes, we'll do some just simple demonstrations. So the concept of a singer under and over squeezing gets complicated for various reasons, but my view on this is yes, you can hear quite obviously when somebody is squeezing more or less in the voice. If I go there's obviously not much squeeze there. It sounds airy and light. It sounds compressed. It sounds together. Yeah, there's a brighter, more metallic type quality, and then you have something in between, which is kind of somewhere. Yeah, it's closed, but it's not necessarily as metallic as the other one. Whatever it is. Yeah, so there's that sense of closure. Does a singer have it or not? The main thing, though, if we're talking about healthy singing, isn't necessarily, does a singer have compression? Na 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 na, whatever it is. It's more the case that does that singer have the ability to maintain consistent closure or compression, however you want to refer to it, through their range? Because there's various singers, let's think like Laura Marling and Lucy Rose, both very, very good singers, technically very good singers, who generally speaking sing towards the lighter side of closure. And they will generally sing on one compression level. Now, those singers are very skilled. They don't lack closure because that light compression they use, they're able to keep very consistent throughout their range. Now, a struggling singer who lacks closure isn't a Laura Marling, isn't a Lucy Rose. It's actually a singer who lacks closure and isn't able to maintain consistent closure, so they will even lose it even more as they go. Yeah, you hear more increasing loss of closure as they go up in their range. Yeah, so they aren't able to maintain even a light amount of closure. They haven't even got to the point of not much closure, but it's consistent. Yeah. Conversely, and in the same regard, I guess let's explain it like that. Somebody who's compressing too much. Let's just talk about a classical tenor like a Pavarotti, for example. There's a lot of compression there typically. Now he backed off of it some, but typically it's compressed. It's a tenor-like sound, very bright, very full. Now, does he compress too much? No, because whilst he's compressing a lot, he is able to manage that compression evenly through the range, just the same way as those light compression singers are. So, a struggling singer who's compressing too much will not have that ability. It will be like a na 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 na. It will be an added amount of compression as they go up higher. So a lot of the time when I talk about good compression skills, whilst we are talking about a broad palette of sounds that an artist ideally wants to be able to make, I'm also really talking about, on a fundamental level, really more importantly, can a singer just manage an even amount of closure through their range? That is a far, far more important skill to develop for a singer than just singing on different compression levels. Now, for me, I could sing on different compression levels for years, and this year I learned to sing with a lot more consistent compression, especially through the mid-range, and all of a sudden my singing improved a lot, and I felt more comfortable, more confident, purely because my ability to manage compression evenly through the range is improved. Now, if you ask me now, years ago, if I'd have realized just learn to manage compression evenly through the range, that is more important than having a broad set of compression levels to sing on, then I would have moved on leaps and bounds more quickly than I did. It took me a long time to get to this point because I didn't value consistent compression as much as I did different types of compression, if that makes sense. And this is true of struggling singers. They don't understand that they've got to find an even amount of attack throughout the range and understand why that's important, the kind of confidence it can help you build, and the kind of sense of control and certainty that it can give you. So those singers that quote-unquote lack compression, like the ones we referred to, Laura Marling, Lucy Rose, not really. They sing on light compression and they have a very high level of skill and they can do that very well. That's very different to a singer who lacks an understanding of even compression and just generally lacks skills with their voice that can't maintain something consistent through the range. So a singer like Laura Marling, she can already do consistent closure. So for her, if you just got her to go na 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 more bright through the range, she'd be able to do it very, very quickly because she's already got a more deeper understanding than a lot of struggling singers have, a much deeper understanding. And the same would be true of Lucy Rose. Conversely, if you take a singer who can't manage compression on any level evenly through the range, they will struggle on everything. Yeah, you give them harder compression, lighter compression, medium compression, it will all be hard for them because they've never learnt just to have a nice even attack throughout the range. It doesn't have to sound pretty. Just has to be nice and even. Same volume, same basic quality in the sound all the way through from chest to head. Once you can do that, then ideally you want to talk about different compression levels. Let's move on to the next topic. I kind of spoke quite a bit there. I need to remember to take this comment off and not ruin my video like I did last time. Right, so the other thing she's asking is warm-ups. Why are they useful? What are they for, basically? You can read that briefly if you want. Pause the video. Warm-ups, let's break this up into two basic warm-up processes. My view is that there is a physical warm-up of the voice, which essentially means the vocal cords often feel stiff in the morning. They do not want to stretch. Yeah? A little bit like your muscles in the morning. They feel a little bit stiff. Later on in the day, they'll feel more mobile and flexible. Generally, I would say that's true of the voice as well. So the physical warm-up of the voice is basically just stretching it out and making it pliable again like the day before. The reason that's useful is once it's pliable and mobile, you can trust it more. And that trust leads into healthier technique typically. Now the other type of warm-up which typically is true of struggling singers and takes longer is more of an emotional warm-up. They are, whilst physically warming up the voice, trying to get into the right headspace to feel comfortable as a singer. Yeah? That's typically when struggling singers talk about a warm-up, they are leaning a lot more towards the emotional type of warm-up and some towards the physical. As a singer improves and gets better and better, they are more going towards just the physical, mechanical warm-up of the voice because they trust their singing and they trust their technique. Physical warm-up takes maybe 2 to 5 minutes, and an emotional warm-up can take anywhere from 5 minutes to a few hours, depending on the singer. So, if we're asking why is it useful, it depends. The answer is it depends where the singer's at. The emotional side of the warm-up can be very useful if you're a struggling singer because it helps you remain calm, which is the hallmark of successful singing and the thing that struggling singers lack so much. They tend to panic very, very easily. That panic feeds into the bad technique. The bad technique feeds more into the panic. So the emotional warm-up for them can be super key because it helps them to stay calm. Now, the physical warm-up, which all singers really need, just helps the voice get pliable and mobile. So, and if you trust your technique, that's really all you've got to establish. So the warm-up is useful depending on where you're at. If you're a great singer already, it's useful just to get the voice going, to get the cycle in your head going, to get the mechanics working, to get some blood flow going. And if you're a struggling singer, it helps you emotionally become ready for the struggle of singing, which typically for struggling singers it is. And I guess that's why it's useful. Let's just bring this up again because there's another one that's interesting. So she's asking regarding this coach called Justin Stoney, who I've seen many videos of. I like his videos. He's recently made videos now about making animal sounds. It's definitely fun, but how does this translate into singing songs? Let's talk about this. So how do abstract sounds feed into technique and singing? And I've talked about some of this type of thing numerous times before, but especially for people learning, one of the biggest hurdles is to get out of singing mode and just get into the mode of making sounds, mimicking sounds, and not get too bogged down in all of the details of sounding pretty and sounding good. Just make the sound. This is how young people learn. They learn just by mimicking and copying. They learn by just making sounds without all of the abstractions that adults typically have in terms of, I need to support the sound, it needs to sound good, it needs to da-da-da-da-da. All this stuff typically leads people down the wrong road. The more abstract it becomes, the more convoluted it becomes, it always leads people to sing worse typically. If we are just making sound and making noises, it leads us into this more intuitive, more experimental type of mindset. It gets us away from being self-conscious, and it gets us into the mode of just having fun and getting involved in the learning process in an open type of way. One of the things that's hard to get across to learning singers and just people trying to get better at singing generally is it's as much about just being in the right state of mind, that being calm, open, experimenting, not too self-critical, not too worried what people think. It's much more important to be in that type of mindset, and it's super, super key. If you are in towards being frightened, in towards being self-critical, in towards what are people thinking of me, all that stuff, that feeds into grab, inhibition and all that stuff. When we're talking about just making animal noises, it's typically quite far away from singing and far enough that we can drag ourselves away from some of that abstract stuff that adults tend to struggle with and kids don't. Young kids are not thinking, all that stuff. They just don't, and that's why they learn it so easily. So adults have to become aware of this if they want to get good, is that it's half technique and it is half getting into the right headspace and learning even what that headspace is. When I started singing, all I knew was fear. I had no understanding that whilst a singer might be technically good, their whole mindset can be very, very different to that of what mine was. Just understanding that and cultivating the ability to get towards the right headspace is going to help your singing as much as all the technical stuff you learn on these channels. Yet, it's not spoken about. How often are coaches putting videos up about just the mental headspace that a singer's in and how key that can be? You go watch any natural singer and you'll get a sense of calm, open, free. Yeah? And that is not just the technique. That is the technique combined with the emotional state, and they tend to work hand in hand. This is the thing, everything feeds into the positive or the negative. Singers that have great technique are able to let go more and be more open because they can trust their technique. But they can't learn to trust the technique if they aren't gravitating and attempting to gravitate towards just being calmer and more open. So these two problems are so interlinked. It's like a chicken and egg thing. You can't get away from one or the other. It's impossible really to know what's the cause and what's the effect, because often you'll feel like, it's the technique that was the problem. And then a few months later you feel like, it's my emotional state. I'm not comfortable. But you never really get a sense of, well, what is causing this and what's the effect? It feels very much like they are intertwined in just the same way as all that panic and fear leads into bad technique, which reinforces the fear. So the reason, going back to animal noises and this kind of thing, these abstract sounds just help you gravitate more towards that right kind of mindset that's going to put you in the right headspace to be able to develop your technique in the right way. And that's why I always will stand by this type of advice. And you'll hear other coaches criticizing these abstract sounds and saying, how does that apply to singing? Often it's the case that they're probably a singer that hasn't transitioned enough to understand how key this can be. As in, they weren't ever really a super struggling singer, and they haven't transitioned into a very good singer. They were, generally speaking, a pretty good singer, and they improved their skills some, but they haven't really felt in their own experience the full gamut of really like hardcore fear and grab versus open, clean technique that's free. Any coach that understands how these two things work together will be all for trying to get a singer out of the headspace of singing and into the headspace of just make the sounds, stay calm, don't worry about it. Let's just have fun here. All that stuff helps, and it helps a lot more than some people realize. And that's kind of it. I will say thank you very much to Susan for this comment and asking these questions, because we've made a pretty useful video for people here. And I will see you again, guys. Take care. Bye. Thanks for watching this video, guys. If you want my help personally, you can book a one-on-one training session. Drop me a message. My email is in the description. And if you feel like this message was of value, then please feel free to make a donation equal to that value. Again, donation link is in the description. And finally, please share this video with other singers you know. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up. And I will see you in another video. Bye.